Record indicate it is now 5:03 p.m. and the Warwick City Council Finance Committee has been called to order. I'd like to just take a moment and welcome all of you back to the council chambers. As you can see, there's been a magnificent remodel done in this building, and I'd also like to thank the mayor for his due diligence in dealing with the trust. This entire remodel that you see, which is painting from a brand new floor all the way to all of the gold leaf trim in this chamber, at a cost of approximately $500,000, was done at no charge to the taxpayers, and it was done through Mayor Solomon's efforts with the insurance company. A fantastic job by our contractors. Warwick Painting did all the painting in this facility. Warwick Floors did all of the flooring, from ripping the flooring up to the custom stain color to the polyurethane finish. Kudos to all of our staff people who assisted in moving the furniture in and out of this facility, whatever other efforts that they put in. And certainly thank you to all of my colleagues and again the staff from the mayor's office for enduring the last 4 months or so having to work out of the police station. And last but not least, thank you to the police department for allowing us to use their building for our council meetings, and especially a thank you for letting us leave that building as well. So again, welcome home, everyone. Welcome back to this magnificent structure and to our home here at the Warwick City Council. First item 2016-81, State of Rhode Island paint supplies. Hi, Christy. Good, how are you? Let's put that mic on.
There we go, that's better.
I still can't hear you.
No?
Try again.
I think it's on. Yes?
Yeah, I think you just have to maybe get a little closer.
Well, good evening.
There you go.
Christy Moretti, Department of Public Works. The state of Rhode Island is extending the expiration on the MPA for paint and paint supplies to March 31st, 2020. The department piggybacks this bid. We'd like to do the same. We're not requesting any additional funding on the cap.
For the record, that is found on page 1. Also, I just want to let my colleagues on the committee know, my colleagues on the city council, members of the public, we have researched all of the budget items that the departments are requesting for funding on. They're all here. If anyone would like to review them, there is adequate monies in all of the accounts that we're going to be talking about this evening. Christy, is there any, I know there's no monies requested on this. It is an extension of the contract. Are there any shipping costs incurred from Franklin Paint?
No, they're local where we can pick the paint up at their facility.
And I also noticed that this says here, the state is exercising the second and final option to renew per bid specifications. So assuming that this gets approved this evening, I would like to request that when this contract is scheduled for renewal, whether there's an MPA in place or not, that the department, let's test the waters and put out an RFP, see what we can save for the taxpayers here.
Okay.
Are there any questions? Are there any questions from members of the committee? Any questions from members of the council? Any questions from members of the public? Hearing none, I need a motion.
Move for favorable action.
Seconded.
We have a motion for favorable. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, Christy. I'm going to go, I always want to jump ahead of this. Acceptance of the, Lynn, I got it. Acceptance of the minutes from the committee meeting held on April 1st.
Move for favorable action.
Seconded.
We have a motion for favorable, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All set, Lynn? Okay, you feel better now? We're good? All right. Okay. 2018-207, CPA Consulting Services, found on page 27. This is an extension of the contract, which has been done, and it's also an extension of the funding of that line item by an additional $30,000. Any questions from members of the committee? Any questions from members of the council? Any questions from members of the public? Hearing none, I need a motion.
Move for favorable action.
We have a
Second.
motion for favorable, we have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Item 2019-212, sale of surplus police vehicles, found on page 37. Good afternoon, Major.
Good afternoon.
Just get a hold of the mic close and state your name for the record, please.
Lori Michaelidis on behalf of the Police Department. In December, the Police Department went out to bid for the sale of 7 surplus vehicles that were previously used by the agency. 5 of them were Crown Vics that were later identified as needed for parts by the city to repair vehicles in use by the DPW. The remaining 2 vehicles were Nissans, and none of the bidders are interested in purchasing the 2 Nissans. As such, the Police Department is requesting to rescind PCR 14-19 sub A. The 2 Nissans will be held for a future sale of surplus vehicles.
Fair enough. Any questions from members of the committee? Any questions from members of the council? Any questions from members of the public? Hearing none, I need a motion.
Move for favorable action.
Seconded.
We have a motion for favorable, we have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Major. Item, ladies and gentlemen, in the audience, anyone that needs to have conversations, please take it outside the council chamber. It causes distraction and echoing here in the council. So if you could please take your conversations outside the chamber. Thank you. 2019-262. (2019-262), found on page 49. Good afternoon, Christy.
Good afternoon again. Department of Public Works went out to bid for traffic signs, posts, and materials to make traffic signs. We received 8 bids and are recommending award to all vendors. Purchases are made on based on price, first and foremost, availability, second. We are requesting the amount of $20,000 for a 1-year period. The bid would expire on June 4th, 2020.
Christy, line number 44, 45, and 46, pre-spacing tape. What is that used for?
Pre-spacing tape is, it's tape basically that they use in between to make the...
Matthew Sallee, Department of Public Works. So if you see a dotted line going down the road, it's a pre-spacing tape, so it's measured. They
Okay.
have to be in different increments for the speed limit on the road.
Do you use a lot of that?
Not really.
Okay. So, Matt, you and I had a discussion
Yes,
earlier
we did.
today. Okay, so give me your suggestion here.
I recommend that we award to 2 bidders,
Go ahead.
Atlantic Broom and
I believe it was Garden State and traffic
Garden
signs?
State. Yes. Although they're out of New Jersey, their pricing is right on point.
Okay, so the recommendation by the director is to stay with the wishes of the Finance Committee, something we've been working on for 30 months now, and that's not going with 8 or 9 bidders. He is recommending that we amend this to go with Garden State and traffic signs. So, we need a PCR.
5619.
What are the two?
PCR 5619.
Yes.
The recommendation is for Garden State and traffic signs. Any questions from members of the committee? Sir.
One question. I believe Atlantic Broom Service was one?
Atlantic Broom Service,
Atlantic
yes.
Broom Service, and what was the other one?
Garden State,
Garden State, okay.
So you don't need traffic signs?
not traffic signs.
Okay,
no,
sorry.
No. It is actually very hard to hear in here. I don't know what it is.
Okay. Garden State and Atlantic Broom, okay. Okay, thank you for that clarification, Councilman. After the dark hair goes, the next thing is the hearing, so. Any questions from members of the committee? Sir?
Mr. Chairman, so is that for the entire bid or just for light items 44, 45?
Entire bid.
Thank you.
Any questions from members of the council? Any questions from members of the public? Hearing none, I need a motion.
I'll make a motion to amend to award to just Atlantic Broom Service and Garden State Highway Products.
Okay, we have a motion to amend. Do we have a second on the amendment?
Second to amend PCR
We have a
5619.
motion, we have a second to amend. All in favor?
Aye.
Need a motion as amended.
Move favorable action as amended.
We have a
Seconded.
motion to amend as amended. I'm sorry, we have a motion to approve as amended. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. 2019-266, found on page 58.
Mr. Chair, may I make a request to hold this to the next
Just
meeting?
identify yourself again for the record, please.
Lori Michaelides on behalf of the Police Department.
Go ahead, Major.
May I make a request to hold this to the next meeting? There's some clarifications that need to be made within the bid itself. They had some confusing language that we want to clarify.
Yes, thank you, Major, and thank you for making that request. You had brought that to my attention a little earlier, and I concur with that. I appreciate your efforts on this. Any questions from members of the committee? Any questions from members of the council? Any questions from members of the public? So, Major, you want to hold till
May 6th?
May 6th. I need a motion at the request of the sponsor.
Motion to hold to May 6th.
Seconded.
We have a motion to hold till May 6th. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. PCR.
5719.
5719, thank you. 2019-270, underwater search and recovery team equipment, found on page 65. Major?
In March, the Police Department went out to bid for miscellaneous underwater search and recovery equipment under bid 2019-270 and received 2 qualified bids from 2 vendors. Based on a comparison of the prices for the items submitted, the Police Department is recommending that this award be awarded to Giant Stride Dive Shop of 1935 Warwick Avenue, this city. Giant Stride was the lowest bidder on each of the items. If approved, financing for these purchases would be from the Police Department operating budget, budget code 30-336, supplies SWAT team, for a total not to exceed $2,502.
Thank you, Major. Also like to point out that the low bidder is also a Warwick vendor, Warwick taxpayer. Major, so the itemized list that I see on page 66 of our binder, these are the items, essentially these are repairs to existing dry suits
That's correct.
and some, it's all dry suits?
Yes,
Okay.
there's repairs and additions.
Okay, so we're not purchasing any new equipment, and the repairs that you're looking to do are exactly as what's itemized here and listed?
That's correct.
Okay. Any questions from members of the committee? Any questions from members of the council? Any questions from members of the public? Hearing none, I need a motion.
Move for favorable action.
Seconded.
We have a motion for favorable, we have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Major. 2019-271, found on page 69, maintenance contracts for laptops and tablets.
Mr. Chair, may I also request that this be held until 5/6? The vendor had made an error on the original quote. They had listed the quantity as 5 instead of 4 like they should have. We caught that error, we had them change that, but then they added additional language to the quote itself that we want to clarify.
Okay, so this will be PCR 5819. Thank you, Lynn. And are there any questions from members of the committee? It'll be held till May 6th, Major?
Yes, please.
Okay. Any questions from members of the committee? Members of the council? Members of the public? Hearing none, need a motion to hold.
Motion to hold on May 6th.
Seconded.
Okay. Hold on, I need to make a correction here. Okay, thank you, Major. We'll hold that till May 6th. 2019-275, found on page 74. On what, 2019-271?
Yes, so we had a motion in a second. I don't think we...
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Thank you, Councilman. 2019-275, passive recreation and landscape improvements. Bill?
Good evening, William
evening.
Vicente, Community Development Office. The office is recommending award to the sole qualified bidder, Shalvey Brothers of Warwick, for the total bid amount of $67,000. I'm sorry, I just lost the dollar amount.
$67,214.
Yes. The office submitted solicited bids. We had 20 individual companies on the bid list. Like I always say, we try to reach out to them after the fact. 12 vendors were contacted. They all had similar responses. I included the responses for 9 in the bid memo. 2 vendors gave the size of the job as the reason it was too big or too small. 2 had too much on their current schedule. 2 determined the scope was outside of their field, and 2 missed it due to vacations or knowledge of the bid. We contacted an additional 3 vendors, and their responses were the same. 2 of them were they don't do public jobs any longer, they just do private. And 1, they missed it, they changed their email address and their mailing address. So the bid is for 8 benches, 4 concrete game tables, and 10 trees in the common area of Oakland Beach. The benches are the similar style as that is there now. Concrete game tables are for chess or checkers, and depending on the location and where we put them will be up to the association and the Department of Parks and Recreation.
Bill, before I ask a couple of questions,
Sure.
I want to certainly extend kudos out to you, your department, and whomever made those calls to 20 vendors. This, as you know, is something that the Finance Committee has been pressing for a very long time, and it's certainly a breath of fresh air for us to see recently, particularly in the past couple of months, more and more department heads making those phone calls and making those inquiries, and we are also seeing the results in more competitive bidding. The concern I had with this particular bid is that there's only 1 response, and then I look at 2 missed the opportunity to bid, either because of vacation or knowledge of opportunity to bid, which could indicate various things, which is some of the things, not the vacation part, but even knowing or being aware that there was a bid out there for this.
The purchasing department emails the list, and as far as I know, they didn't get any returned emails.
No, I understand. My point is this. I don't want to take a chance on losing this bid or having a problem with getting the project going or produced because of the season that we're in.
Okay.
But it does present a challenge to me with only 1 bidder. But having said that, that's something for food for thought. What I do need to hear from either you or being it's in Councilwoman Travis's ward, I need to hear why you want us to approve $67,000 instead of $62,000. Tell me where the value is in the request that you're making.
Okay, so the difference in the bid, I don't know if you have the bid in front of you, if you've seen it, there were some options on the park benches. There were 3 options presented to the vendors. One was for Douglas fir, which is the cheapest of the 3. The second was for a cedar-colored plastic material, and the third was for, I always pronounce it wrong, Ipe or Ipe wood, which is a extremely dense hardwood that can't be just nailed, it has to be drilled. It's disease-resistant, rot-resistant, weather-resistant, does not need any maintenance, staining. It can be power washed, the graffiti can be power washed off of it. It's a durable material. The benches that are there now are the same style and from the same vendor that we spec'd out. Those benches and the material are cedar wood, which is no longer used in the benches. Those benches were installed, I believe, in either 1998 or 1999. The city is in the process now of going through and redoing those benches. The additional cost, maintenance falls on the city. The Community Development Office cannot pay for maintenance and upkeep of structures or facilities that we put money into. So the maintenance falls on the city. The difference in the cost between the Ipe and the Doug fir is $692 a bench. It comes through, doesn't need any preservatives, doesn't need sanding, polyurethaning. Doug fir, being in the environment that it is in, down by the seawall, in a flood zone, salt water, I thought the investment of the additional funds, because the city can't do maintenance, would make sense to do it up front from the Community Development Block Grant funds than buy a more affordable product now and run into a problem with maintenance. The issue with the plastic, we found there's some in the Hat-Petrarca Pocket Park where the plastic with sun and weather gets brittle and it'll break.
Like slides? Like slides.
Well, slides.
I know about
When you
slides.
power wash it, it leaves the mark of, it has to be painted. It doesn't match what's there now. So that's why we went with the more durable natural wood material. So over time, it'll match what is there. And it's less of a maintenance.
Is this a material similar to what marinas are starting to use now on the docks?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Is this a material that is similar to what I see marinas starting to use on their docks?
Honestly, I don't know what they use on their docks. But this, I have a sample of it in my office, and I have a sample of all the materials, the Doug fir, the Ipe, and the plastic.
Yeah.
And it's a very durable.
Okay, well, I think knowing, the differences in qualities and hearing what you had to say, I think you made a good choice. And I went through this exercise, not so much for our benefit, but for the benefit of the taxpayers.
Yep.
Because I want the taxpayers to realize that even though it's a grant, we're still, everyone, all of us, the department heads, this committee, the city council, we're all doing our due diligence to make sure that we're getting the best value, even when it's a grant. Somewhere along the line, somebody's putting up the monies that puts into the grant kitty. So, good job. I think you did a good job. I agree. And even if we did have the staff for the maintenance, the hourly cost of our staff to maintain those over a period of time would certainly exceed $5,600.
Right.
I think it was well thought out. Good job. I appreciate your efforts. Any comments, sir?
Thank you. No, I want to piggyback on the chairman's comments on that. I did see that, the difference in price, and was looking at that as well. And I do think this is a worthy investment. There are so many different events down in Oakland Beach every year. They do a great job. They even have them year-round. I don't know if you want to hang out on the park bench in the middle of the winter, as it's very cold there. And just the last time they put in benches was 20 years ago, so we are putting these things, we want them to last. Sometimes you have to pay a little more up front to for the better quality, but that's going to, in the long term, this will be definitely worthwhile for the city, as we're not going to have to be out there every couple of weeks trying to, stain them or fix them and stuff like that. So, and then overall, I think this is a good project. I know they are doing so much down there, so many different events. They bring in a lot of people, not just from the city of Warwick, but across the state that come down here. And we want people to see all the great assets that we have down here, and different things like this goes a long way. And then they can stay and have lunch or have dinner and spend some more money down here. So I think that this is a quality project. Thank you.
Chairman, I'd just like to say thank you, sir. I'd just like to say thank you again, because to be able to come before a budget committee and say, look, I know I'm going with the higher bidder and there's a bid process, but then to understand the needs and especially the use of that area in Councilwoman Travis's ward, and knowing what you're dealing with and knowing what you're preparing for, and again, that goes on what both the gentlemen said before me, is basically that's wonderful. It is a long-term saving. It's a very big long-term saving, but also it keeps that area occupied with people who are going to eat, see our great sites, and spend money in the city. So thank you. And congratulations, Councilwoman.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Travis, would you like to say something?
Yeah, I'd like to add a few things. Basically, I want to thank Bill for all the hard work he put into it, not only checking on all the vendors, but he has been on that site for so many times. He's met with other people from the committee or the neighborhood. And it's going to be a plus for even the taxpayers, because those game tables now, they can have the elderly people, anybody, sit there and they bring their own chess, and they can play chess, they can play checkers, and they appreciate the better quality because it lasts longer. And like Councilman McAllister said, every week we got the car show, we got the July fireworks, we got other events that are going on, the concerts. So it's it's well utilized, and it's good to have material that's going to be good there. So thank you, Bill, and thank you for the committee for the good words. Thank you.
Any other questions from members of the council? Councilman Crawley.
I may have missed it, but can you tell me how many benches are going to be involved in this?
A maximum number of 8. There's a maximum number of 8 benches, maximum number of 4 game tables, and a maximum number of 10 trees.
And are the benches the 4-foot benches?
6
or are they
foot.
6 foot?
6 foot.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other questions from members of the council? Any questions from members of the public? Hearing none, I need a motion.
Move for favorable action.
Seconded.
We have a motion for favorable, we have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 2019-2, motion passes. 2019-276, Power Wash Plus. Christie, this is like deja vu on this one.
I know, I'm like a bad penny tonight.
The mic,
Keep coming
the
back.
mic. No, I meant on this particular item. This is like deja vu.
Am I not?
I remember the last time this came up for bid, I think we had long, very long, lengthy discussions about this.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I do. Go ahead.
The department's requesting to award the purchase of the all-purpose cleaner degreaser to Shiraz. It's $195 for a 55-gallon drum of the product. The low bidder, who was actually $3.05 a barrel lower, we had awarded it to them previously. It was the same product, which is the equivalent basically to like a car wash. Doesn't provide what we needed to do, so we rescinded and re-awarded to Shiraz, who was the second lowest bidder on that bid, so we're requesting to just go to the responsible lowest bidder this time.
Chrissy, what did we pay for this last time for a 55-gallon barrel? Do you recall?
The bid that we currently have in place is $195 a gallon.
Okay.
I mean, a gallon, a 55-gallon drum.
We're still paying the same price?
Yes.
Okay. The discussion in the past on this was because of the differences. The differences I seem to remember were much greater than what they are now. And it was spoken to by DPW that there was a big difference in the ability for degreasing and its ability to get the job done, particularly on the equipment that we're talking about in DPW. So that's why I was just kind of commenting to Christie about deja vu all over again, but this time I think it's cool. Any questions from members of the committee? Any questions from members of the council? Any questions from members of the public? Hearing none, I need a motion.
Move for favorable action. Second.
We have a motion for favorable, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Christie. 2019-277, found on page 80, fire apparatus repair.
The department is requesting to award all 7 vendors for the bid for fire apparatus repair in the amount of $50,000 for a 1-year period that will expire June 7th, 2020.
Okay, Christie, I'm going to make this one easy. Again, we're on 30 months now of, or 28 months, something like that, of talking about just getting numbers or discounts and no list prices. And we have no list prices on these fire apparatus repairs. It says parts percentage off list, and it goes through, you know, the number of discounts. We need list prices. We had an agreement that this committee is going to be provided with some 25 most commonly used parts in the repairs over $200, and we don't have that. So I am going to be looking for a motion to hold this to afford you the opportunity to get those list prices from those vendors. Can you do this by May 6th? Is that enough time?
I will
Yes?
I will
No?
do my best to.
Would you prefer I hold it till May 20th?
Well, how about we hold it till May 6th and then see
Okay.
where we
All right.
stand with certain
Fair
vendors
enough.
as to.
Okay, what's the next PCR, please?
5919.
PCR 5919. Any other questions from members of the committee? Any questions from members of the council? Any questions from members of the public? We have a motion to hold till May 6th.
Second.
Looking for the list prices from the different vendors.
Seconded. What did you say? Motion to hold to May 6th.
We have a motion to hold. We have a second to hold until May 6th. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Christie.
Thank you.
Item number 11, 2020-002, veterinarian services, found on page 84.
Good evening, Ann Corvin, Animal Shelter. With regards to this bid, we received one vendor submitted a bid, Salmon River Vet Services, who is currently the vendor for these services. So I'm recommending, once again, awarding the bid to Salmon River for a period of 2 years in the amount of $10,000 per year to cover the cost for spay-neuter vaccines and testing for shelter animals.
Ann, what's this account, 360-0414? What's that account?
It's, when an animal is adopted, we collect the money that we spend for these services, so that money goes into that account.
Okay.
And so it's a kind of a revolving fund.
So
And then we
you-
use that to pay the vet.
Okay. So you have an accounting of this account?
Yes, not in front of me, but there,
No.
I am able to access
But
it. from
if I
Munis.
were to ask you for a spreadsheet on this account, money in, money out, you'd be able to provide me with
Yeah.
that? Okay. So, did you call any of these other vendors?
I did.
You did?
And the general consensus
Excuse me,
seems to
excuse
be...
me. I don't see anything here in your position paper dated March 14th that indicates you had called any of the vendors?
No,
I'm not-
I did not call them prior to sending the bid out. I called them after.
No, I understand. Let me finish.
Oh, okay.
I understand you didn't call them before sending the bid out. And we're not asking you to call them before. We're asking for the department heads to call the vendors after the bids have been done, opened, results, to call vendors and say, hey, listen, you know, why didn't you bid? I mean, $20,000 worth of food is, I think it's a pretty interesting number. If I were a provider of those products, I think I would certainly be interested in bidding. So for our benefit in the future going forward, if you could put that information in your position, like you just heard Bill Facenti, he just put in his papers that he called 20 of the vendors to find out why they didn't bid. He gave us an explanation for all of those folks why they didn't bid. And this is the interaction that we're asking for from department heads and have been asking for about 28 months now to do. So you said, or you started to say that you did, and what was the results of those phone calls?
I did, and of the practices that got back to me, they do not have adequate staffing to send a veterinarian to the shelter to provide these services.
So did you ever send any bid requests to Sam's or BJ's or Walmart or anything like that?
You're talking about the food?
This is for medical services.
Sorry. Okay, I jumped over to the other one.
Vaccinations and stuff like that.
Okay. And I'm sorry, what was the answer from the other vendors?
For the veterinary services,
Yes.
they don't have the staffing to send a veterinarian to the shelter to provide these services. So they don't want their vets leaving the hospital to perform services
see.
for us.
So they don't make house calls.
Correct.
But Coventry does?
He's mobile, and
Oh.
most of his business nowadays, he does a lot of shelter stuff for other shelters in the community, so I think it seems to me that it's easier for him to kind of move his schedule around.
Do you know of any other mobile services like this?
I'm sure there are some. I don't know of any in the area.
That's interesting. I'll put it up for discussion for members of the committee if you're interested in doing a 2-year or you want to entertain a 1-year and see what happens going forward, or what's your pleasure?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to say that I have heard that there are many more vendors that are doing the mobile veterinarian when being a pet owner at one point and having 2 pets. We relied on it when our husky got in his final years. And I'm not doubting this, but I do know that it's become more of a, between the cleaning services, the health services.
Yep.
It's interesting, you bring up a great point that maybe it's something, as time changes, like, let's say food vendor trucks and stuff like that, people are now, like, businesses are coming to people rather than people go to business. So this is something, maybe if there's a way that between yourself and purchasing, they could update the list to include, if that's your service, because I was very shocked to hear when I saw 6, and so I didn't realize it was a mobile service when I was looking at the bid. So I was counting 6 vendors going on what the chairman said, and when you said, oh, they're required to come here, so the first question I thought of, and I'm going to ask it now, how often do you need the veterinarian to come to your location?
He comes every 2 weeks.
Oh, okay. So therefore, and he has everything he needs in the vehicle? You don't supply the supplies?
No, well, he brings his own supplies, so he brings his own anesthesia. We have the anesthesia machine, because we
Yep.
have a surgical suite and a vet room at the shelter, which is what we utilize. So he brings all of the instruments he needs and whatever medication. I mean, we don't provide any of that.
Yeah.
The only thing he's using is the room, basically, and an anesthesia machine, our table in the
Mm-hmm.
surgery room and stuff like that. But he comes in with his boxes of stuff when he comes in.
Oh, I see. Okay. And the other vendors, I'm sorry if this is repetitive, but the other vendors are aware of that it's once every 2 weeks? It's written in the bid process?
It's written in the bid.
Okay. So for this one person, was this like, how long has this person been the vendor for the...
Many years. It's since I've been the director, so that's 14 years.
So it's fair to say he was probably one of the first in that niche, if you will.
We had when we first opened the building, we had West Bay Animal Hospital for the first 2 years, I believe, if I remember correctly. And then Dr. Loisel he moved from Connecticut, where he was originally from, and then he submitted the bid, and he was the lower bid, so he ended up getting it. He's been the vet since
Right.
that point in time.
So I thank you so much for informing me, because I was looking at the 6th bid saying, how does no one from Warwick want this business? And then when the chairman asked the questions, I would agree with what the chairman said, for the simple fact it gives us a chance to update. It sounds like that it's from my utilizing these services, it definitely has grown. I feel very confident the market's grown. And I would agree with the chairman that I would be willing to amend this to a 1 year to give purchasing and your department a chance to go ahead and maybe open up to more bidders. And then again, the prices, to be honest, they do look phenomenal, but it gives someone else an opportunity and save the taxpayers further and save your organization further. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Go ahead, Councilman. I'll ask you a question. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to piggyback on that, because thank you for laying that out, because that does explain it to me. I could see if a vet has their own shop, they don't want to leave for an afternoon twice a week to go and do this in case they need to treat animals at their place. So I could understand that. And then I just wanted to make one comment that you're doing great work on the social media with the dogs, trying to get adopted, having cute pictures, because my fiance keeps saying, oh, did you see who's up there, and sending me the pictures and whatnot, so it's working.
And when you are invoiced from this mobile service, I would assume, and I don't like assuming, so that's why I'm asking you, that when you're invoiced, that you get an invoice for their service, whatever antibiotics they prescribed or provided, or any services they provided, et cetera. You receive itemized invoices for each service?
Yes.
Okay. And you also have that in an accounting form, so that if we wanted to look at it, you'd be able to produce that for us as well?
Yes, when I submit the invoice, well, I have to submit the invoices to purchasing in order to pay him, so.
Correct.
They get a copy of it, obviously, and I keep a copy.
Okay. And it's a detailed invoice. Like when a rescue service picks you up, there's different things that they provide, and if they have to paddle you, that's a charge. If they have to provide medication, that's a charge, et cetera, and those charges are listed, so we know what we're paying for. My point is, when you get an invoice from Salmon River Veterinarian Service, the invoice would say, on this day, we provided medical services to this particular animal, and we did this, we did that, and this was the medication that we provided, et cetera. Because you said they provide everything. You provide kind of like the emergency room, but they provide the service.
Yes, although the invoice, so for example, the invoice is cumulative of what happened on that day. So if I have 5 dogs and 5 cats being spayed and neutered and vaccinated, the invoice will have the log numbers of those animals, and it'll have, his invoices are itemized in groups, so spay, neuter, and then it would have a total price. But I have a chart that I keep based on his bid on what each animal cost based upon weight or whatever he's charging for, so that I can, in other words, when I'm making sure that we're getting charged the correct amount, and he does the invoices while we're, before he leaves, so we go over it together to make sure that the pricing is correct.
When was the last time they provided a service to you?
A week ago, well, he's coming this Friday, so
Okay.
2 weeks before.
Have you received the invoice for that service?
Yeah, it's at the shelter.
Okay. Could you send that invoice to me tomorrow?
Sure.
Okay. Okay, so let me go through. Any other questions from the committee? Any other questions from, yes, Councilwoman Travis?
Yeah, I just wanted to clear something, Ian. On the bid package, it says that it's Salmon River Veterinarian in Coventry. Is that
Correct.
who we're talking about?
Yes.
But yeah, on the vendors list that we have, the whole list, it says that Salmon River Veterinarian is in Riverside.
Yeah, his P.O. box is in Riverside, so his invoices read Riverside. When the city sends them a check, it's in Riverside.
Okay.
But his home address
So
is
it's
in
the same
Coventry.
person?
Yeah, it's all the
Okay, as
same.
long as I know, because it looked different places.
Good observation, Councilwoman. Any other questions? Councilman Ricks? They were all pointing to you, Councilman, and I think they were afraid I was going to skip right on by you. I saw you out of the corner of my eye. Go ahead, Councilman.
Just like to say that I do agree with the Finance Committee. on this, the points that were brought up about seeing if there are other vendors out there who do similar mobile services. And that's not just because to make sure that we're getting the lowest possible bid, which is of course the primary goal with all of that, but also just in case something does ever happen in the next whatever the period of this may be, as approved by the Finance Committee and the Council, not to presume, but whether it be 1 year, 2 years, should something happen, then it's good to know what the emergency options would be. Beyond that, I would have to agree with Councilman Howe that these prices, they certainly are terrific, they're phenomenal, and I'm glad to hear that from your testimony and from the memo that this mobile veterinarian does fantastic work. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other questions from members of the council? Any questions from members of the public? Ann, thank you for due diligence on reaching out to some of those other vendors. Hearing none, I need a motion.
I'll make a motion to amend to a 1-year contract and change the amount to $10,000.
We have a motion to amend to 1 year and the amount reduced to $10,000. Do I have a second?
Second to PCR 60-19.
I have a recommendation. I have a second. All in favor on the amendment?
Aye.
You need a favorable move forward?
I move favorable on the amendment.
We have a motion. We have a second. Favorable as amended. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, Ann. PCR 6019. Yes, that's correct.
Did you guys notice I did that math by myself? Right?
2020-004. Good job, Councilman. Animal shelter, food, and cat litter. Go ahead, Ann. I kind of got ahead of myself on this one, but you go right ahead.
We received 3 bids for these services, and there was only one vendor that could provide all of the supplies. Pet Supplies Plus was the only vendor which was able to provide not only all the items listed, so if you look at the bid, their dog food is 7 cents more per pound than the bid that Summit submitted, but their cat litter is 7 cents less per pound. So the fact that we order more cat litter than dog food, it seems to be more cost effective to go with that. Also, that they're able to provide Purina One, which is really helpful because we get a lot of that donated that we mix in with what we're feeding now, but it helps to be able to have donated food that we use that can keep the cost down as well.
So it brings me back to the question I asked prematurely. Have you sent bid requests out to BJ's or Sam's or Walmart? And the reason that I'm asking the question is earlier today we did some research online for some of these various items that you have, and we found prices that were noticeably less than what you have. And like anything else, we're always looking to save money on behalf of the taxpayers. So have you requested bids from BJ's or Sam's or Walmart?
I have reached out to them in the past, and they do not, what I'm told is that they cannot submit fixed pricing. So there's no guarantee that the price will remain the same.
So that's what someone there said?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not necessarily...
Because the cat litter, I've been saying it for years with the cat litter, especially at Walmart. You can get cat litter for like $4 a bag, but they can't... I spoke to a manager, and they told me that they cannot guarantee pricing.
So how much do you buy at one time?
We order, I believe, 300 pounds at a time.
And how long does that last?
6 weeks.
6 weeks. So do you have facility to store a 1-year supply?
No, that's the other problem. I couldn't get like a pallet because I wouldn't have the storage space for it. Where we have it is basically in our hallway, it's stacked up, but I don't have, the shelter's just not big enough. I don't have storage space to put it anywhere else, basically. And the food would be problematic to store large quantities because then you would be getting mice if we don't go through it, and it would go stale.
Questions?
Just one quick question. So I noticed that Hills isn't on the bid sheet. They went online and looked it up, I assume? From Topeka, Kansas?
Oh, that's from Hill, yeah, that's Hills.
Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead. Hills, it says Hills, and then if I look at the sheet, and it says on the bid sheet, it says Hills Pet Nutrition, Topeka, Kansas, but it's not on the bid sheet, so that mean they did an outside bid, probably looking online? And once they bid, do they go on to so that she'll have that option in the next round of bids?
Anytime we receive a bid from somebody who's not on the present vendor list, we would add them to the vendor list, so they'd be on that list in the future.
Okay.
So we have no way of knowing where they got that bid from. There are companies out there that solicit bids for companies. It could be a situation like that. They could have got it off the Newport site, they could have got it off our site, but somewhere they received our advertisement and submitted a bid, and from this point forward, we would send it to them.
Okay, thank you.
And what did you spend in this line item last year?
Oh, last year, the award was $8,000, and it looks like $6,400. But that did not include, wait a minute. See, now I don't know, because last year we had, this past year, I should say, the cat food was a separate bid, which is why, so that's added into this bid that I'm asking for now. So it's $6,400, I believe, what I spent for food and litter.
For 1 year?
For 1 year.
Okay. So here's what I'm thinking. See if it's worth the effort. So there are several vendors here who are willing to lock in on the price for not just 1 year, but for 2 years. And I don't think that they come to the buying power of a BJ's or a Sam's or a Walmart. So I just find it interesting that a BJ's, a Sam's, and a Walmart wouldn't be willing to lock in the numbers when you have vendors on a much smaller scale that were willing to do it. So what I'm thinking, and I'd like to hear your comments, is perhaps it might be an idea for us to entertain a 1-year bid on this and also revisit this next year to make some contacts with people in BJ, Sam's, Walmart, or some of these other companies who are in the position to make that financial decision and see what happens. Thoughts, Councilman?
Yeah, and again, I don't know this for a fact, but I'm thinking the local person probably just can't guarantee it because it's got to come from corporate. And that's what they have to do at that. If we call the Warwick, BJ's or whatever, they probably don't have the authority to price something out for 2 years. That's probably something that has to be done at the corporate level.
Councilman?
I would agree with that, and I'm absolutely fine with that, but I also understand what the councilman said, but also I take, and this is just a simple comment. We had a Sam's in Warwick. The companies you mentioned, of course, they're not in Warwick. I want to support a local Warwick, but I got to say I have a duty to save the taxpayers' money, but also I have a duty of representing the taxpayers, the people who worked at Sam's that was making record profits, and they shut down and laid off thousands of people. So we can have further discussion on that, but I agree with your theory, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
We can't control how corporations run their corporations, but we can control how we spend taxpayer dollars. Any
If
other?
I- Can I
Yes.
just say one thing, too? The other thing we do need to consider is the delivery aspect of it, because if we get it from someplace that doesn't have the means to deliver it, then we have to find people to pick it up, and my department doesn't have those means. I mean, currently, Debbie picks up the cat food on her own time now, which she really
Sure.
shouldn't be doing, but, so just another thing to...
Sure,
kind of
understood, and those are all considerations. So when we consider the end cost to the user, which in this case, it's the taxpayers, we certainly consider all of the related costs, whether it be delivery, handling, storage, waste, whatever. So I absolutely agree. That's something that would be considered. Any other questions from members of the council? Councilman Ricks.
My thinking is that food prices in particular, including even cat and dog food, they tend to shift more over time, and generally prices on food have tended to increase at a faster pace than decrease. So I would think that in a situation like this, where the greater risk is prices going up substantially in 2 years, as compared to the converse happening of prices going down in the next 2 years, that it may make sense to lock in for that period of time. But certainly I can see other points of view in terms of reaching out to some of these larger vendors as well.
Okay, thank you, Councilman. Entertain a motion. Sorry? Any comments from members of the public? Any questions? Entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion. I don't think it'll hurt to do a 1 year, just want to make sure we come back enough time so our friends at the animal shelter have plenty of food and stuff ahead, but I know you'll be on top of that. It's always good to go back out and see if we can get a better price. It doesn't hurt to ask, and if we find that the prices continue to go up, and maybe next time we do a 2-year bid, but I think I would be comfortable doing a 1-year bid, and I will make a motion to amend to do a 1-year bid and then change the contract award number to $7,000.
And that becomes PCR 61-19. We have a motion to amend to a 1-year contract in the amount of $7,000. I need a second.
Seconded.
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, Ann. 2020.
And then I make a
I'm
motion
sorry.
to favorable as amended.
There you go.
Seconded.
Okay, we have a motion for favorable as amended. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman. Thank you, Council.
Pretty much a math list.
2020-019, hydraulic parts and repairs. Found on page 91. Christie.
Me again. The department's requesting to award to Tri-Power Sales and Service. We received 2 bids. We're requesting to award the local vendor in the amount of $20,000 for a 1-year period to expire June 30th, 2020.
Okay, Christie, again, same item. We don't have any list prices for us to go by. So I'm going to ask any questions from members of the committee, any questions from members of the council, any questions from members of the public. Hearing none, I need a motion to hold until May 6th.
Motion to hold to May 6th.
That'll be PCR 62-19, a motion to hold till May 6th to allow DPW to provide us with list prices. We have a motion, we have a second, all in favor? Aye. Thank you. 2020 high-density propylene pipe. Found, I did, PCR 62-19. 2020-020, found on page 95. We're going to need a PCR on this, which will be PCR 63-19. Highway drainage pipe. Christie.
Department received 6 bids. We are requesting to award to E.J. Prescott and Corin Maine as lowest responsible bidders in the amount of $5,000 for 1 year, expiring June 30th, 2020.
Any questions from members of the committee? Any questions from members of the council? Any questions from members of the public? Hearing none, need a motion.
Move for favorable action.
We have a motion for favorable. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Christie. 2020-021 will become, that'll be PCR 6419.
Excuse me.
PCR 6419, I'm assigning a separate PCR number on this. I will be recusing. I'll need a recusal form. I'll fill it out before the end of the meeting. Councilman McAllister, if you could take over on this item, please.
Sure. Christie.
The department received 2 bids for minor roof repairs for city-owned buildings. We're requesting to award both vendors in the amount of $20,000 for a period of 1 year, expiring June 30th, 2020.
Thank you. So this is for minor roof repairs in case something happens. We need to be flexible, you know, all the rain and stuff like that. If something happens in the middle of the night, we notice we want to have, the reason why you're suggesting to have 2 companies is if one already has a project and they're at a different part of the state, we have another one that we can call, as we saw with the Buttonwoods Community Center. Having a leaky roof leads to a number of other problems, and especially if these buildings are occupied with our employees or our residents, that we want to make sure it's safe. So this is proactive to have in place, to have different people that can come and service our buildings and keep up our infrastructure, which is a critical issue for our city. Any questions from members of the committee? Any questions from members of the council? Any questions from members of the public? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Move for favorable action.
I'll second that. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. It passes with 1 abstention.
Thank you, Councilman. 2019-295, found on page 102. There's additional vendors for OEM pots. Sorry, Kristen. Go ahead.
Department of Public Works is requesting permission to purchase from Hurd Auto Mall the GM Chevy parts and from Tasker Ford the Ford parts for the vehicles within the city fleet. We are requesting an amount of $60,000. Department makes every effort to purchase aftermarket parts, but unfortunately there are occasions where we do need to get the OEM parts, and these are the 2 vendors that are local to us that we've had experience with. So we are requesting to add them, have the same expiration as the existing OEM parts bid of February 17th, 2020.
Christie, as we know, this bid came before us not that long ago. And I'm not going to look to hold this or put it back out for bid because I understand the need to be able to get these OEM pots. And I've also had discussion with folks, and I have received the assurance for the benefit of my colleagues on the committee and the council. I have received the assurance that DPW will be picking up the phone and calling all of the providers of these OEM pots in the state of Rhode Island to make sure that we get the best price on any pots that we purchase. And I don't mean a spark plug. We know what we're referring here. So to say that this is painted with a broad brush for just those 2 particular vendors is not the case, because the assurances are that a representative of DPW will do their due diligence, will make those phone calls to the vendors throughout the state of Rhode Island to get us the best deal on those pots, and at any time that anyone would like to see any documentation of those phone calls or requests, certainly feel free to do so. So, having said that, Christy, what did we spend in this last year?
Well, last year, we typically have 2 bids that go out to bid, and then we end up in the similar situation with other vendors under 56.6 that are OEM parts that don't submit a bid, but they are proprietary to their make and model of the vehicle or piece of equipment or whatever it may be. So they all fall under the same cap, which is how the other 2, we have 2 bids now, one for various parts, one for OEM parts, and I think we have a 56.6 as well. They all fall under the same cap of $550,000.
But this one, you're looking for $60,000.
This is correct. These vendors are separate under their own bid because of, I'll be honest with you, I just returned to work last week, so I'm not sure of what conversations happened, but these vendors provide the OEM parts for Ford and, well, one for Ford, one for Chevy.
But this
or
is a
GM.
separate bid, right?
It is a
from
separate
the other.
bid.
And
'Cause
wasn't this a separate bid in the past?
I believe it came before the committee once before, but like last year, there was an OEM exception
Right.
that had, I don't know, probably 17 vendors on it. But that cap that's requested, or the monies that are requested to expend with that bid are included in the cap with the other 2. So.
But you track just the OEM parts, right? I would assume.
We track all of them.
Okay, so that's the question I'm asking you, is if you have an amount that you spent last year just on OEM parts.
I could pull the numbers out by vendor. Like I could pull out what we spent with Hurd, I could pull out what we spent with Tasca. I could do it that way. Typically, our spreadsheet that we keep, because it's inclusive of 3 different bids, we use, we have the vendor, we have the purchase order number, and the dollar amount. I mean, if you'd like to see what we spent with these vendors, I can certainly pull that information and get it to you.
Just on the OEM parts that applies to this bid.
Just these 2? Okay.
Matt, you don't happen to know that number, do you, off the top of your head? Let the record indicate that the director did not have that number. Okay, that's fine. Just send that off to me tomorrow if you could, Christy. Okay, so I think we have an understanding on this. Any questions from members of the committee, members of the council? Any questions from members of the public? Hearing none, I need a motion.
Move for favorable action. Seconded.
We have a motion favorable. We have a second. All in favor? Aye. Item number 17, 2019-296, repair parts for DPW trucks, found on page 104. Christie?
This department's requesting a 56.6 for Dejana truck and utility equipment. We had a vehicle that was involved in an accident and received $3,700 from the insurance to make repairs. They were able to repair that vehicle in-house, so it was less. What we'd like to do with the insurance proceeds is repair that vehicle with the parts and keep 2 other vehicles in service by replacing the truck beds. It will be at no cost to the taxpayer. The dollar amount requires us to ask for permission, so that's what we're doing, but it will come from the 76357 insurance code.
Thanks, Christy. Another example of doing your best, to make use of what you got. And certainly DPW, over the last 5-6 months, you guys have come to us time and again. You're taking some of these dinosaur vehicles and you're breathing some new life in them and making use of them, so we get this benefit of these vehicles for another couple, 2-3 years. And this is another prime example of doing that, so we are grateful for that. Any questions from members of the committee? Councilman?
I would also like to commend DPW for doing this. I see that there's a lot of mutant vehicles out there that we've taken parts from here and there and made a new vehicle, and these are great because they're keeping these equipment on the road, serving our residents, serving our city, and they're getting very creative, and I like it, and this is another example of that, and I know we appreciate it here on the Finance Committee, and I know the rest of the city appreciates that we were able to keep equipment on the road and servicing our city, so keep up the good work. Thank you.
Any other questions from members of the committee? Any questions from members of the council? Any questions from members of the public? Hearing none, need a motion.
Move for favorable action.
Seconded.
We have a motion favorable, we have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Christie. Item 18, 2020-028A. And that is found on page 106. Major?
First, Mr. Chair, I'd like to request to amend the funding source on this request from Budget Code 30-340 to Budget Code 34-354, which is emergency operations. That budget code is more appropriate considering the function of this program. The department is seeking an exception to bid and authorization to pay for the annual interoperable emergency network access fee to Mutual Link. Mutual Link, in the event of an emergency, allows us to create communication networks that can share radio, video, and telephone communications with other participants. Currently, the fire department, school department, Kent County Hospital, as well as Warwick Mall Security all participate in this program. This is a proprietary system of which Mutual Link is the sole source provider of the software. The total cost for the software and the network access is $2,867.81.
Thank you, Major. We'll have no problem amending that budget code for you. And for the record, could you just give me the number of monies that's in code 34354 as of today?
$54,266.70.
$54,266.74?
70.
I'm sorry?
70 cents.
Wow. I just been corrected for 4 cents. Thank you, Major. You're doing your job. That's good. That's fine. So we're going to have this PCR 6519. Any questions from members of the committee? Councilman.
Thank you, and thank you, Major. I think it was over a year ago now, I actually saw kind of a drill that the police department put on for this product, and it is really impressive. And as you mentioned, the police department, the Warwick Fire Department, the Warwick Schools Department, Kent County Memorial Hospital, and the Warwick Mall Security all use this program. And we were able to see they kind of did an active shooter drill with a local elementary school, and we got to see the program, and it is very good, and I think it hopefully we'll never have to use it, but it is a valuable asset to this city, and I think this is definitely well worth the investment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other questions from members of the council? Any questions from members of the public? Hearing none, I need a motion to amend.
I'll make a motion to amend the code
PCR 6519.
6519, and make to change the code to 34-354.
Seconded.
Okay, just for the record clarification, we're going to be changing from code 30-340 to code 34354, and that is PCR 6519. Need a motion on the amendment.
A favorable action on the amendment.
Seconded.
We have a motion favorable. We have a second on the amendment. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Move on the amendment, please.
Motion for favorable action as amended.
Seconded.
We have a motion as amended. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. PCR 2020-028A, and that is found on page 106. Major?
The department.
I'm sorry. Okay, 2020-28. That's the one we just did. Sorry. Okay, 2020-029, police college educational expense.
The
Found on
department
page
is...
109.
I'm sorry. The department is seeking an exception to bid and authorization to expend funds for college expenses on an as-needed basis from various vendors not to exceed $80,000 for police officers for fiscal year 2020. This expense is statutory, Rhode Island General Law 42-28.1-5. State law provides for reimbursement of educational expenses for police officers to include tuition, books, and supplies. The current authorization expires June 30th, 19, and this authorization would cover the department from July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020.
Major, this requirement for approved degree programs in accordance with Rhode Island General Law 4228. So what are those degree programs?
It's limited to police administration of justice, police management, criminal justice. It's limited to those that are specific to the police profession.
And this is a contractual requirement as well?
Yes.
Okay. And what did you spend in this line item last year?
Last year, we spent approximately $87,000. We requested $80 as well, so we were over $7,000 last year. Currently, we have $21,461 still in the budget code, but we're toward the end of the spring semester, so those reimbursements haven't been requested yet.
You spent how much last year?
I believe we were approximately $7,000 over.
Any questions from members of the committee? Any questions from members of the council?
Just a quick question. Do you target schools that offer in-state tuition?
We don't target. Roger Williams, Salve, and Rick are the most popular, but there is no requirement that it's in-state.
Any other questions, Councilman? Nope. Okay. Any questions from members of the public? Hearing none, I need a motion on PCR. I'm sorry. Let me straighten this one out first. Okay, I need a motion on 2029.
Favorable action.
Seconded.
We have a motion favorable. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. (2020-30) found on page 111. Police advertising. Major?
The department is seeking an exception to bid and authorization to expend funds for advertising expenses for various licenses reviewed by the licensing unit and approved by the Board of Public Safety in the Warwick Beacon on an as-needed basis for fiscal year 2020, not to exceed $6,000. The licensing unit processes daily requests for advertising for various licenses issued. Beacon Communication has favorably provided these services in the past and is the only local advertiser to meet the advertising requirements necessary. Advertising in a statewide publication would be cost prohibitive.
Any questions from members of the committee? Any questions from members of the council? Any questions from members of the public? Hearing none, I need a motion.
Move for favorable action.
Seconded.
We have a motion favorable. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, moving on, need acceptance of the minutes on April 1st.
Move favorable action. Seconded.
We have a motion favorable, we have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have PCO 7-19, Pension Board, and I will give you a request in 1 minute. Okay, request to hold until May 20th.
Motion to hold to May 20th. Seconded.
We have a motion to hold, we have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. PCR 9417, State of Rhode Island Telecommunications. Hold till May 20th.
Motion to hold to May 20th.
Seconded.
We have a motion to hold, we have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. PCR 148, formerly bid 2018-143, installation of sprinklers at the Cooper Building. Hold till May 20th.
Motion to hold to May 20th.
Seconded.
We have a motion to hold, we have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Let the record indicate it is now 6:23 and the Finance Committee has adjourned.
Let me jump right in.
Jump right in.
Good evening, everyone. This is, the time is now 6:23. Health, Education, and Welfare Committee is open. May I have a motion for acceptance of the committee meeting held on April 1st?
Make a motion to accept?
Motion made, seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Item number 1, PCR 21-19, resolution relative to the Educational Outreach Committee that is not drafted. Councilman Lattiser.
Hold till May 6th.
Motion to hold till May 6th, seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
The time is now 6:24. Health, Education, and Welfare is closed.
Ready to go. Yep.
There's no, this one ordinance.
No, we got ordinance.
Yeah.
And then we do public safety.
Yeah, you got a bunch.
Fine.
Good evening, everyone. I call the Ordinance Committee at 6:27. First up is the acceptance of the minutes for the committee meeting held on March 18th. Do I have a motion?
Second.
It's been moved and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. First up is PCO 19-18, an ordinance in regards to working without a building permit This is for second passage as amended. Councilman Lattiser.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. We had significant discussion on this. This is not only a consumer protection item, it's also to deal with the outlaw contractors who want to try to do business here in the city of Warwick. And we are certainly, as a city council and as a city in itself, we're going to take issue with contractors that want to come in here and work without the proper building permits. So, as I said, we've had significant discussion on this. This is something that is supported by the building official. He is here this evening. Mr. DeCourt is here to answer any questions if you may have any. Short of that, I respectfully request favorable action on this long overdue ordinance. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilman Lattiser, and I would like to echo that and thank you for the work that you put in. I know that you met with our building department and you've met with people that do work across the city, and this is a major issue. It's a fairness issue, and it's also a safety issue, that we want to make sure that work is being done in the correct way, in the safe way, and we want to stop the practice of, hey, let's see if they catch me. And this is uniform for everyone to go through, and I'm happy to be a co-sponsor on this. And is there any questions from members of the committee? Any questions from members of the council? Councilman Lattiser.
Mr. Chair, if anyone else would like to also sign on as a co-sponsor, I'm not sure if we have everybody on board or not, but I certainly would be.
I think you already got everybody, Councilman Lattiser, but I like you going for more. I like it.
That's it? All right, okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Yeah. Any questions from members of the public? Any questions from members of the public? I'll entertain a motion. Favorable action. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and second. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Second is PCO 4-19, an ordinance allowing right turns from Airport Road onto Evergreen Avenue. Councilman Howe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I asked, this is for second passage. I'll be open to any questions. I asked for passage. Thank you.
Thank you. This is another piece of legislation coming before us that is second passage. We had lots of debate. We had lots of input from the community and the council. I thank Councilman Howe for his work on this. This is for second passage. Do we have any questions or comments from members of the committee? Any questions or comments from members of the public? Members of the council? Any questions from the public? If not, I'll entertain a motion. We have favorable action. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second. It's been moved and second. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Passes 3-0. Number 3 is PCO 18-15, Neighborhood Improvement Program, an ordinance that will make landlords responsible for the costs to pick up debris left on the street by tenants. This is not drafted. Councilman Lattiser and Councilwoman Travis.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Councilwoman Travis and myself and several people from the administration, we've been working on this now for several weeks. We are moving forward. We're still gathering some more information, some comparatives from some other communities. So we're close, but we're not quite there. So we'd ask that you hold this until May 20th.
Okay, we have a request, and I'll make the motion to hold until May 20th. Any questions from the committee? Any questions from the council? Any questions from the public? Do I have a second to my motion to hold to May 20th? It's been seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. And last on the docket is PCO 3-19, an ordinance relative to boat storage on residential property. This is not drafted. Councilman Corley.
I have been working on this, and I have a rough draft that I am anticipating trying to bring to the council. However, I think that it may be better given the history of this in the city, that there be a public meeting concerning the ordinance. I don't know if it should be brought before the council first before there is a public meeting, and then we schedule a public meeting, or vice versa.
It's an amendment of the zoning ordinance, which requires a public hearing for approval, plus it has to go through planning, and there's a public hearing in that process.
I understand that. I was talking more of a public hearing for the community to discuss and have their input prior to action, rather than have an entire council meeting taken up with a single issue.
Well, you have a couple of options. You could have your own public meeting and just invite members of the public to come and comment on your draft. Or your other option is, if the council wants to entertain it, you'd have to docket a resolution and see if the council wants to have that public hearing.
Okay. I think option one is probably easier, and I would ask that this be held until June 17th.
Okay, the sponsor would like to hold to June 17th. Is there any questions from the committee? Any questions from the council? Any questions from the public? There's been a motion made by Councilman to hold to June 17th? 17th. Do I have a second? It's been seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. And that closes ordinance at 6:34.
So the Public Safety Committee convenes at 6:36 p.m. First, we have acceptance of minutes from the committee meeting held on April 1st, 2019.
Move to accept.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, and we have next PCR 16-18 tree damage claims. Councilman McAllister.
16th. I'd like to hold that to the July meeting, July 16th, please.
So at the request of the sponsor, like it be held till July 15th, 2019.
Motion to hold.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. PCR 50-19, claimed by Melanie Shackelford. Sorry in advance if I got your name wrong. Oh, hello. Can you just please state your name for the record?
Melanie Shackelford.
Alrighty, and you said you had a tire damaged by a pothole, and you only were able to get one estimate?
Yes.
And why is that?
It's a certain kind of tire. It's Z-rated, and I bought it at the Enthusiast in Johnston. And I called Baxter's, Dexter's, and Goodyear to try to get estimates on that tire, and they couldn't find the tire. So I got you the only one that I could.
So what makes this tire so unique?
I think it's the brand of it. Because I think they only order them certain places, because I've asked them to, I asked those 3 other shops to look for the tire, and they couldn't find that one.
And is the brand the one that's stated on the invoice from the enthusiast?
Yes.
So normally we do require 3 estimates, and when I just do a quick search online for this tire, it appears like I find it, the same brand.
I wasn't able to get really internet access.
If I'm not mistaken, you are able to get free internet access at the library down the road that way. So committee, we have only one estimate. Anyone have any questions?
I do, Mr. Chairman. I have just one. What I'm looking for on it's a 245/45/18 for the car. Are you saying that you couldn't find the exact name brand? Is that what you're saying? Or were you looking just for
I was looking to get the exact same tire back, yes.
Yeah, to keep it with the other tires?
Yes, because I bought them as a set, and I wanted them on as a set.
Right. So my question, Mr. Chairman, you pulled up that exact same name brand?
It appears so, yes, although I fully admit I am no car expert.
No problem. With those same tire sizes?
The 245/45/18.
And were there any businesses in this area that had those tires?
I can't speak to this area. I know that it says from plus 20 stores. Only reason why I didn't look for this area is because I went based on her note that she submitted saying, even online, I could not find my tire. Although now it appears here she's saying she wasn't able to check online at all, even though the note seemed
Well,
to
I'm not
suggest otherwise.
100% tech savvy, so to look, I don't know where to look for tires. And the internet access is kind of difficult.
Did you already have the tire replaced?
No.
You did not?
No.
So what are you driving right now? Are you still driving on a donut?
No. I had my old rims. I was able to put one of those on the car.
Oh, I see. Okay, so the
So
car is safely drivable? Okay, so here's what I'm going to ask, okay? Seeing that we do have, and please understand, there's a checks and balances in our, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, I apologize. There's a checks and balances in our city, as in everyone. We do have a requirement for everyone to get 3 estimates. You properly got 1. Your car is drivable, which I'm very happy about. I'll be more than happy to request that this committee hold your claim, get the other 2 estimates as the chairman identified.
Okay.
So you're looking for the tire size and that name, as you're aware.
So do I print it out?
Yes, please. What
Print it out
they will
for you?
print it out. So if you go there, they can write down the tires that they have or how they can get it.
Okay.
And then, yes, you can print it out, and then you give it to us, and we can relook at
So if I
this.
go online, because the shops that I did ask around my house said they couldn't find it, so I have to go online to print those out for you?
Yes, you can. And as the chairman said, the Warwick Public Library, there is probably a cost to print, but the Warwick Public Library will have that, and I understand they're not tech savvy. I think that he's got it right here. He could probably, well, I don't want to volunteer, but I know that he's like, one of those people that, help, but that we might be able to find just some places that you can take care of it. But for the checks and balances of our city and the fairness of the city, we have to get the 3 estimates.
Okay.
And the purpose of that is just to verify that you get the fair cost and the taxpayers get the fair cost.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll be more than happy to hold this, and then or request it hold, and then we can move on from there if that's okay, Mr. Chairman.
That works, and just so you know, if you go to Google, if you just type in exactly what the enthusiast said on their invoice, verbatim, for what the item description is, that's all I did, and it comes right up.
Okay. So that's all set. Now, do I mail that to you guys or just bring it in like the next hearing?
I would, to get it here as soon as possible, I would bring it into the department where you submitted this paperwork, and then they would add
I'm not sure
it.
where it was because like it's been so long.
Okay. Downstairs in finance? In the finance department in the basement of the city hall.
Okay, so I could bring them here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And then you just reference your claim number here, so you have your paperwork on the letters we sent you.
Yes.
And just say, this is additional evidence of claims, and they'll attach to your packet, and we'll have it next time.
Okay.
Okay, so don't leave just yet. Hold on one second in case there are other questions from the council, okay?
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Does anyone else on the committee have any further questions? Are there any questions from the council? Any questions from the council? Any questions from members of the public? Any questions from members of the public? Seeing none, we entertain a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I ask that we hold this. Will you be able to get those estimates, you think, within 2 weeks, or would you?
Yeah.
Or actually, we have a meeting 1 week from tonight. Well, that's right. It is 2 weeks. Okay, good. It is 2 weeks. I'm thinking this is the last week. So do you have 2 weeks good?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to ask that we hold this until May 6th.
May 6th.
And then, so before then, you submit that paperwork.
Okay.
So motion to hold until May 6th.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, you're all set for tonight.
Thank you. You're all set. Thank you.
All right, PCR 52-19, claim David Rothermel.
Good evening, council members.
Good evening. Can you state your name for the record, please?
David J. Rothermel Jr.
All right, and you hit a pothole on, looks like Jefferson Boulevard.
Yes, sir.
And are you aware, I see these invoices and estimates, they're all for well over 300. Are you aware that we're only allowed to approve for up to 300?
300, I do understand. There was also strut and windshield damage, so that's why I'm only claiming the tires. But those were all the lowest prices of the three estimates, and I actually couldn't even go with Town Fair because it happened on a Sunday. And so Town Fair is closed, so the next option Warwick is Pep Boys.
Are there any questions from members of the committee?
I would like to say, Mr. Chairman, that Mr. Rothermel is actually a veterans advocate for the state and does drive around quite a bit. I work with him advocating. We're not employed together. We are very familiar with each other as we volunteer in the same causes. And his job requires him to drive around the city. And I realize that, the first question we could ask is, this is an amount, but he is employed in the city of Warwick. And he does do quite a bit of services for our veterans, as he is a veteran himself within the city of Warwick. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I see him every year at Operation Stand Down, in fact.
That's right.
Any further questions from members of the committee? Any questions from members of the council? Any questions from members of the public? Seeing none, entertain a motion.
Move for favorable action in the amount of $300 as recommended by the department.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All set.
Thank you, council members. Have a good evening.
You as
Thank
well,
you,
sir.
too. PCR 53-19, claim Paul Buckley.
Good evening.
Hi, can you state your name for the record, please?
Paul A. Buckley.
All right, and your car was damaged, looks like pretty significantly, because you hit an obstruction on Cowesa Road, you said?
Yeah, August 26th, about 9 o'clock, hit a hole, construction hole. That was a pothole. I guess it was a construction hole that wasn't filled properly, and then went into a manhole cover and cut the sidewall of a low-profile sports car tire. Did a lot of damage to the car.
And you said the AAA driver said it wasn't even the first time it happened?
Correct, and it's it hasn't been repaired since the 26th of August.
That's a good sign.
I got the three estimates.
And you're aware, I think if you heard us tell the previous person, that the most we can provide is $300 for damage from a pothole?
We've been here for 50 years. We understand.
Didn't even have the director come up.
Yeah, he's in.
DPW Director? Matt,
Mrs. Salitro?
could you come on up for a quick minute, please? Sorry.
Matt Salitro, DPW Director for the City of Warwick.
Did you hear the claimant mention that the pothole still hasn't been fixed on Cowesa Road?
The pothole that he's referring to is at a drainage structure. We've been out there multiple times and have patched it. We're waiting for the frost to get out of the ground so that we can do a square cut, hot patch it, and waiting for the asphalt plant to open. To date, they haven't opened yet, and when they do, we will fix it.
And you recommended approval of this claim in an amount of $300. Is that because the damage was caused by a pothole?
Correct. That's the maximum amount of damage that I can do for my department.
All righty. Any questions from members of the committee? Any questions from members of the council?
Yes. I was just going to say hi to Paul. Paul, your parents still live off of the past? Sorry to hear that.
That's where they were returning. They brought her dinner.
Yeah.
They visited her on Sunday nights.
Yep.
They were returning home, and they hit that hole.
So Paul went to Tollgate many years ago, and I played basketball with his brothers. So good to see you again, Paul.
Any other questions from members of the council? Any questions from members of the public? Any questions from members of the public? Seeing none, we entertain a motion.
Move for favorable action for an amount of $300 as recommended by the department.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're all set. Thank you.
Very much. Have a good evening.
PCR-54-19, claim Francis Delbonis. Going once. Francis Delbonis. Hopefully pronouncing it right. All right, seeing no one. All right, so this is we've already held this once. You don't want to hold it again?
Well, Mr. Chairman, seeing that there seems to be a change of address.
Yes, because originally we were supposed to be the police department.
Right.
Too late to send out another notice, make phone calls.
Yes. So because, just to be fair and to give this person as well as the city an opportunity, I would make a motion that we hold. And would it be easier to hold for a month, or would it be the 2 weeks? Okay. Thank you so much. Motion to hold till May 6th.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
That appears to be it for public safety. So it ends at 6:51 p.m.
Okay, this is the Intergovernmental Committee. It is 6:53, and first thing I would like to do is ask for acceptance of the minutes of the April 1st meeting.
Move for favorable action.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The first item on the agenda is PCR 9-19, a resolution requesting that the Rhode Island Airport Corporation consider additional factors in its 2019 CFR noise study. This has not been drafted. Councilman Ricks?
Excuse me, I got my mic. Request hold to May 20th.
Per request of the sponsor, hold PCR 9-19 till May 20th.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
The second item is PCR-42-19, a resolution to the General Assembly in support of amendments to the Sewer Authority Enabling Act to add 2 board members, financing terms, and septic systems. This is by Councilman Lattiser.
Hold on May 6th.
A request to hold it to May 6th.
Per request of the sponsor, move to hold till May 6th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we close at 6:55.
That's in the zoning ordinance. Does that only apply to new developments? Everything? Okay. Thanks.
It is now 6:56 PM. The Appointments Committee is now open. The first order of business will be the acceptance of the minutes from the committee meeting held on April 1st.
Favorable action.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The second order of business is the appointment of Ella DeFusco to the Library Board of Trustees. Do I have any comments from the committee?
Thank you. I have reached out to Ella. She's really looking forward to serving, if this council approves, on the board of the library, which is a very important board. They have their own budget. They have their own board of directors, and it's a very worthwhile board to serve on, and it's very important to serve on. And Ella actually has a lot of experience. She has been volunteering at the library for years. So she's familiar with the facility, the main facility, but she's also knows about the satellite ones as well. And I think this is a really good appointment because she's enthusiastic, she knows it, and this is the type of people that I think that we want serving on our boards and commission. And I know we've mentioned it many times that we have a lot of great and important boards and commissions, and we want to welcome people to please reach out and contact us We'd love to get more Warwick residents on these and involved, as it's important and it's a sacrifice, and we appreciate people that put their names out there and that want to serve on important boards like this, and I thank her for her interest in this board. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other questions from the committee? Any questions from the council? Any questions from the public? Any questions from the public? Hearing none, do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion for favorable action.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The Committee on Appointments closes at 6:58.
The Committee on Public Properties, Land Use, and Community Affairs opens at 6:59 p.m. First, acceptance of minutes from committee meeting held on March 18, 2019. I'll entertain a motion.
I would move acceptance.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, PCO 5-19. This is second passage. An ordinance amending the zoning ordinance of the City of Warwick, Joanne DeCenzo, individually and in her capacity as an administratrix of the estate of Joseph DeCenzo and of Joseph DeCenzo III petitioners.
Mr. Chair, your mic. Is it on? Is your mic on?
Thank you. The light seems to be on, but it's not working. All right. PCO 5-19, second passage. For the record, I'll repeat. An ordinance amending the zoning ordinance of the City of Warwick, Joanne DeCenzo, individually and in her capacity as administratrix of the estate of Joseph DeCenzo and Joseph DeCenzo III petitioners. Second passion, do we have any discussion by the committee? Of the council? Any questions or discussion from the public? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Next, this is also second passage, PCO 6-19, an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance of the City of Warwick, Great Point Group LLC petitioner. Any discussion of the committee?
No.
Of the council?
No, other than to say it's a great project and I'm looking forward to it, especially that it's in Ward 8. That's about it.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Any questions from members of the public? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And the Committee on Public Properties, Land Use, and Community Affairs closes as of 7:02.
you doing?
How you doing? Wanted to get you right back in the action.
Yeah, I see that. I see that. Lots of questions already.
Been an inquisitive bunch in your absence.
No. There have been groups of them over the years that never asked any questions. Not this group. Do people still go out afterwards?
Yeah. Haven't changed that much overall.
Hey, thank you.
You look good.
Thanks.
You do. Look at the big old smile.
I feel good.
You do.
Yeah. Thanks.
It's all right.
You going upstairs? Huh? Well, you don't have to. If you were going up there to the balcony, then you can give
City Council will come to order. The clerk will call the roll. Sorry about that. Here.
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 Yeah.
Here.
Here.
Councilman Corley, if you could lead us in the salute to the flag.
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave
can be seated. I wanted to welcome everybody back into the council chambers and thank the public's indulgence and the staff for the inconvenience of a water problem that we had here at the council chambers. We did have a nice ceremony to open up the council chambers since its repair earlier today. And it was also nice that it was covered by insurance, but it was not pleasant that we had to be over in the police department for several months. Not that we mind their company, but we didn't have much in the way of accommodations. So with that said, I also wanted to welcome back our city council solicitor, Mr. Harrington. I know he was suffering from an illness earlier in the year, and we're glad to see that he's recovered. With that said, I did want to briefly mention that I think Councilman Lattisaw, you wanted to present the proclamation at this time.
I do, Mr. President.
Yes, if you could come forward.
Thank you. Patricia Cousineau, could you come forward, please? Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mrs. Patricia Cousineau, and she is the principal at Warwick Next School. And it is so fitting to be here this evening to present Patricia with proclamation of congratulations in addition to the reopening of our council chamber. Mrs. Cousineau was just recently selected as the Elementary School Principal of the Year for the state of Rhode Island. Think about the significance of that. We have 39 communities in the state of Rhode Island. Think about how many elementary schools we have, and think about how many principals were in the consideration for this distinguished position. And it was narrowed down to 2. And Patty was the winner, and so well deserved of that accreditation. But for me, it's even a bit more to be standing with her tonight, because when I first got elected in 2012, I had called Patty because Warwick Next School is just down the street from my house and in my ward, and I said, you know, I just got elected, so you kind of drew the short straw, and I need to meet with you and see if there's anything I can do to help. And we did. And I've seen wish lists before, but hers was quite lengthy. And it was very exciting to sense and feel the passion that Patty has for her school, for her students, for her staff, and for the people here in the city of Warwick. So I came back 3 weeks later, and when I walked in, she says, Ed, she says, I need to show you this before we stop. And she showed me a picture that she had of my son in the 3rd grade. In the 3rd grade, that was a long time ago. I would leave it that way. That was a long time ago. I was so impressed and so touched that here this lady is so many years later, and she still has a photograph of her very first class, a student that was in her very first class, her 3rd grade class. That is dedication and loyalty to service and to your job and to your students and to the things that she does so well. So I also thought it was very fitting this evening for my son Brian to join us. Brian, come on down. Never brought me flowers. There you go. He is. Brian, stay here with us, if you will, for a moment, and I'm going to read this proclamation from the City Council and the Mayor of the City of Warwick. It's a good thing he takes after his mother in all respects. This resolution of congratulations comes from Mayor Solomon and from all the members of the City Council. And it states that, resolved that, whereas Patricia Patty Cousineau was awarded the Rhode Island Association of School Principals Elementary Principal of the Year Award. And whereas the RIASP Principal of the Year Award goes to school principals who place students' learning at the center, set high expectations for student development, oversee standards-based teachers' learning, utilize data in making decisions, and engage the community in shared responsibility for student achievement. And whereas the president of the association, Don Ribello, said Patricia is the #1 best elementary school teacher and principal. Best elementary school principal, and many of our boys and girls inspiring them to learn and to help others learn. And whereas Patty's favorite quote has become a morning tradition after the Pledge of Allegiance, everybody makes mistakes, and that's why pencils have erasers. Now, therefore, it be resolved, the Mayor and the City Council wish to extend their heartfelt appreciation and sincere thanks to Patty Cousineau for her hard work and dedicated service to the children of our community. The City Clerk is directed to forward a copy of this resolution to Patricia Cousineau. Patty, congratulations and wonderful job, fantastic accomplishments, and thank you for everything you do for our kids. Thank you.
I just want to add to that, as on the Board of Directors of Volunteers in Warwick Schools, we hear nothing but the best things about Patty. All her involvement in every activity that's done at that school, her involvement in the community, but putting her kids first, all of her kids. So we congratulate you.
I also can't resist to introduce someone else that's here this evening, because as elected officials, our families also sacrifice, and our families oftentimes have to do without and change plans and make other arrangements because of our responsibilities as elected officials doing the job that we do. So this evening, I'd also like to present to my colleagues on the City Council and the members of the audience, my wife, Deborah. I'll be in trouble for that one. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Patty. Thank you.
You don't care.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? There are no executive communications. Are there any other comments under general communications from any council members? Any comments? If not, we'll move to the acceptance of the... Yes. Oh, sorry, Councilman Ricks.
I would also just like to say briefly how great it is to see so many people here in this room, because when you go into a lot of more modern, newly constructed public buildings, it's not the same as some of these buildings that are more historical, where You see the art, you see the different types of architecture. I'm privileged to be able to, in my day job, go to a lot of these historic public buildings. I know that a lot of people don't have that same sense that I do when I go to court, but in my position, it's something where every now and then you can kind of soak it in and look at the marble, look at the gold leaf, and really enjoy the atmosphere. And this is the people's house. And I'm really glad to see that we were able to get all of this done at no cost to the taxpayer, and that it's here for the people of the city of Warwick to enjoy. And it's really something that should be a point of pride for Warwick, that no, the city council, we're not holding these meetings in some office building somewhere, that this is here for the people. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from council members? If not, we'll move to the acceptance of the minutes from a city council meeting held on April 1st. If someone could move that. Councilman Lattisaw, or Councilman McAllister, seconded by Councilman Lattisaw. Is there any questions on the minutes for approval? If not, all those in favor? Aye. All those approved? The acceptance of the minutes from the April 1st meeting stand approved. Next, on the public comment period, there is I'll read it, a Rule 41. After the general communications and prior to the consent calendar of each city council public hearing meeting, there shall be a 15-minute period during which citizens may comment about Warwick city government issues subject to the following stipulations. The total period of time for public comment shall be 15 minutes. Comments need to be brief in order to allow as many citizens as possible to participate. The topics for comment shall be issues directly affecting city government. City council members will not respond to questions during the public comment period. The public comment session will terminate at the expiration of 15 minutes. Waiver of this provision requires unanimous consent. There was one person that signed up, and Jay, I'm going to butcher your last name, if you could pronounce it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President, council members. Forgive me for my voice and my breathing this evening. I'm recuperating from the flu for the second time in 3 weeks.
Just introduce yourself for the record, if you would.
My name is Jay Buongiovanni, and I am the elected president of the Warwick Financial Crisis Committee. Over 70 members attended our first meeting last week, with over 100 showing a shared concern in our fiscal health. I have scheduled workshops with topics of varied fiscal issues, and these workshops we expect will be well attended. We are a committee comprised of concerned Warwick residents, your constituents, concerned and fearful that Warwick's financial crisis will change our families' and businesses' lives forever. Many fear their lives in Warwick will never be the same. Many fear the need to move out. Fixed incomes of our senior citizens dictate their options. A potential dislocation of our middle class facing the need to move out of our beautiful city is a distinct possibility. The residents of Warwick demand from our elected officials the courage and resolve to inform us of the fiscal crisis we are to face, to help forge a consensus of support by being transparent and open. We want to be supportive and involved, not confrontational to the point of paralysis. Facing tens of millions of dollars in deficits, I fear your constituency faces extinction as you now know them. As we all acknowledge and respect the great fire and police that keep us safe, there is a need across the board to objectively reevaluate union contractual obligations. Your constituencies are expecting the courage and resolve necessary in proposals that provide a sharing of our fiscal burdens and not a burden and reliance solely upon the residents of our city. A total burden sharing should be paramount in the minds of our elected officials with a shared sacrifice for all. No sector of our community, especially our senior citizens, should be unduly burdened while others are burden-free. Openly reevaluating the viability of all union contracts and whether those contracts are viable within our fiscal abilities is not personal or disrespectful, Mr. President. They are essential to our fiscal health. Understanding and creatively diagnosing yesterday's problems and issues will provide our tomorrows with a fiscal certainty equated with a healthy, viable self-actualizing of each of your constituents. Courage, resolve, openness, and transparency. These are the dictates for success. Where are the continued alarm bells warning us, assuring your constituency with transparent and open understandings of the problems we will be facing and how you intend to lead our city out of the darkness of deficits towards the light of prosperity. Surprises will doom the support required to solve our problems. Enlightenment will solidify the support necessary to succeed. I cannot stress and emphasize enough how vital the education of our city residents is for our successes. We look to all of you to help us understand what lies ahead so we can provide the support you most assuredly require. More importantly, providing us with concrete proposals we can understand and support in repairing our fiscal health. In doing so, I am hopeful that with your openness and transparency, we can forge a consensus together toward fiscal viability. You're all on notice. You're all facing a crisis of confidence. Political malfeasance is being felt by most of your constituency, presenting us with the narrative that you inherited this fiscal crisis demands the curtain be opened and honest discussions take place. Council members complicit by their tenure on the council with approvals of budgets and contracts over the years must find the courage and strength to solve this crisis. Self-examination is a necessity, and it's not pleasant. Procedural and process changes must be contemplated for all future budgetary considerations and adoptions. How you address the lack of confidence will translate toward future city elections. How you challenge contracts that are ill-conceived and improperly presented for your consideration and votes would decide all future elections. We propose a 21-day rule to be implemented immediately to assure proper analysis and impact of all negotiated contracts and budget issues. All negotiated contracts and budget issues seeking approval should have the daylight necessary to be read and contemplated. Many question the due diligence afforded for each contract and budget vote when given little time to read and evaluate. A complete paradigm shift representing a reprioritization of our revenue and expenditure streams is required. We, the Warwick Financial Crisis Committee, look forward to meeting with every council member and mayor to be better informed. And that information will lead to a consensus required to solve our crisis and restore the confidence in our elected officials. Thank you very much, and Godspeed.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the announcement of appointments. There are none. Next item is appointments requiring confirmation. Library Board of Trustees, Ella DeFusco, Committee Report, appointments.
The Committee on Appointments recommends favorable action.
For action, doesn't indicate the ward. Whose ward it is? Four. Okay. Councilman McElroy, if you could move that. If you could move it for favorable action.
I move favorable action.
Seconded by Councilman McAllister, Councilman Lattisaw. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussions, Councilman, about Ella DeFusco for the Library Board of Trustees? Any discussion from council members? If not, the clerk will call the roll. A yes is to approve. Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
The appointment stands approved. Next item on the agenda is the consent calendar, PCR 5519, a resolution relative to bids. Committee report, finance.
Committee recommends favorable action.
For action, Councilman Lattisaw.
Move favorable action on PCR 55-19.
Seconded by Councilman McAllister, Councilman Howe. Go ahead, Councilman.
Thank you, Mr. President. First item, 2016-081, State of Rhode Island Paint, favorable action. 2018-207, CPA Consulting Services, favorable action. 2019-212, Sale of Surplus Vehicles, favorable action. 2019-262, Traffic Signs, Channel Posts and Materials, that has become PCR 56-19. 2019-266, Radio System Maintenance, has become PCR 57-19. 2019-270, Underwater Search and Recovery, favorable action. 2019-271, Maintenance Contracts for Laptops, PCR 58-19. 2019-275, Passive Recreational and Landscape Improvement, favorable action. 2019-276, Power Wash Plus, favorable action. 2019-277, Fire Apparatus Repair, PCR 5919. 2020-002, Veterinary Services becomes PCR 6019. 2020-004, Animal Shelter Food becomes PCR 6119. 2020-019, Hydraulic Parts and Repairs become PCR 6219. 2020-020, High Density Polypropylene Pipe has become PCR 6319. 2020-021, Minor Roof Repairs, PCR 6419. 2019-295, Favorable Action. 2019-296, Repair Parts for DPW Trucks, favorable action, has become, favorable action. 2020-028 has become PCR 6519. 2020-029, Providence College, Police College Education Expenses, favorable action. 2020-30, Police Advertising, favorable action.
Okay, the consent calendar has been moved and seconded. I know that this is after public hearing after about an hour and a half. Councilwoman Travis, question.
Yes, Mr. President, can I pull out bid 2019-275?
Pull it?
Yes.
You won't need a separate number?
Separate number, please.
Clerk will assign that a separate number. $66.19. And, what's that? Bid number 2019-275. So I know we spent, as I mentioned, about an hour and a half in committee with public comment on all of these items. Some of them, now, bless you, 11 have been pulled out. The rest have been moved for consent. Are there any other questions on the bid? If not, the clerk will call a roll. A yes is to approve. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. PCR 5519 stands approved. We'll go to the first item that was pulled out of the consent calendar, which is bid number 2019-262, which is now PCR 5619, committee report, finance.
Mr. President, we have an amendment that we have to move on.
So it's moved with an amendment. It's seconded by Councilman McAllister. Councilman Howe. If you could move the amendment.
The amendment was to make the award to Garden State and Atlantic Broom only.
Okay. Councilman Lattiser moves that as the amendment, seconded by Councilman McAllister. Councilman Howe. Is there any discussion on the amendment? And Councilwoman Travis?
I don't know. Yeah, go ahead.
Councilman McAllister.
Chairman Lattiser, we amended it to approve Atlantic Broom Service and Traffic Sign Safety, Inc.
Say again?
Traffic sign.
We gave two, we approved for two, Atlantic Broom Service and Traffic Sign Safety, Inc.
Yes, correct. Thank you.
So Councilman Lattiser moves it with the two vendors, seconded by Councilman McAllister. Councilman Howe. Thank you, Councilwoman Travis. Is there any discussion on the amendment to the two vendors?
Somebody talking?
I think Billy's coming down.
So we've already had,
I said the wrong one.
In traffic sign. Garden State traffic sign. Garden State. Did you change it?
so we're just confirming that the award is to Atlantic Broom and Garden State Highway, correct? And that was a recommendation, that's how it's been moved? Councilman Lattiser? And it's been seconded. Thank you, Attorney Welch, for checking on that. Is there any discussion on the amendment that was discussed in finance to the two vendors? If not, the clerk will call the roll on the amendment. That's PCR 5619, and the amendment is to award only to Atlantic Brown and Garden State Highway. Clerk will call a roll. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Amendment stands passed. Councilman Lattiser, if you could move it as amended, PCR 5619.
PCR 5619 as amended.
Seconded by Councilwoman Travis, Councilman McAllister, Councilman Howe. Any discussion on PCR 5619 as amended? If not, a yes is to approve as amended, and the clerk will call a roll. Yes.
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 PCR 5619 stands passed. Next item on the agenda is bid number 2019-266, which now has separate number PCR 5719, committee report, finance.
Committee recommends holding till May 6th.
Held till May 6th. Next item on the agenda is bid 2019-271, which is now PCR 5819, committee report, finance.
Committee recommends holding till May 6th.
Held till May 6th. Next item on the agenda is bid number 2019-277, now PCR 5919, committee report, finance.
Committee recommends holding till May 6th.
Held till May 6th. Next item on the agenda is bid number 2020-02, now PCR 6019, committee report, finance.
Favorable with amendment.
Okay, and Councilman, if you can move it.
The amendment is...
move it for favorable action. We'll give
favorable action with amendment.
Okay, seconded by Councilman McAllister. Councilman Howe. Councilman, if you could move the amendment.
The amendment is to amend to 1 year and amend the amount to $10,000.
Okay, that's moved and it's seconded by Councilman McAllister and Councilman Howe. Is there any discussion as to why you're making that amendment?
Because it was brought to the attention of the committee that there are more mobile units now doing or providing this veterinarian service, and it made sense to us to amend from a 2-year contract to a 1-year so that this can be revisited in a year and solicit additional vendors who operate these mobile veterinarian units to bid on this work.
Very good. Is there any other discussion on the amendment? If not, a yes is to approve the amendment, and the clerk will call the roll. Yes.
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 PCR 6019 amendment stands passed. If you could move PCR 6019 as amended, Councilman Lattiser. If you could move it as amended.
Move favorable action on PCR 6019 as amended.
Seconded by Councilman McAllister. Councilman Howe. Any discussion on PCR 6019 as amended? If not, a yes is to approve, and the clerk will call the roll. Yes.
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 PCR 6019 stands approved as amended. The next bid that was removed from the Finance Committee package was bid number 2020-004, now becomes PCR 6119, Committee Report, Finance.
Move favorable with an amendment.
And that's a recommendation, if you could move.
Yes.
And Councilman Lasso moves favorable actions, seconded by Councilman McAllister. Councilman Howe, if you could move the amendment, Councilman.
Move the amendment to a 1-year contract term and the amount to $7,000.
Seconded by Councilman McAllister. Councilman Howe, any explanation on that, Councilman? Why you're amending it to $7,000? Could you give us an explanation as to why?
Yes, once again, to solicit additional vendors in the upcoming renewal, some of the larger providers of this same food.
So you think that we might be able to get some better pricing if we get more competition?
Sorry?
We're going to get better pricing if we get more competition. That's what you're trying to do.
Yeah, I think it's worth a shot.
Thank you. I do too. All right. So if we could, any other questions on that? If not, the amendment's been made and seconded. Clerk will call the roll. Yes.
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 Amendment stands passed. Councilman Lattiser, if you could move it as amended.
Move favorable action on PCR 6219.
Seconded by Councilman McAllister, Councilman Howe. Any discussion on PCR 6119 as amended? If not, the clerk will call the roll. A yes is to approve. Yes.
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 PCR 6119 as amended stands approved. The seventh item that was removed from the bid package was bid number 2020-019. It's now PCR 6219, committee report, finance.
6219 was held till May 6th.
Held till May 6th. The eighth matter that was removed from the Finance Committee package was bid number 2020-020, which is PCR 6319. And the committee report is...
Madam Clerk, I need you to read to me the reason for the PCR.
That I was going to recuse myself
You're
on this.
recusing,
Yes.
okay. And that is the reason.
That's the reason, but you have to give a recommendation.
So, recommend favorable action on PCR 63-19.
Okay, and you're moving PCR 6319, seconded by...
Correct.
Councilwoman Travis, Councilman McAllister, Councilman Howe, and as I said, I'll be recusing myself. Is there any discussion on this? If not, a yes is to approve, and the clerk will call the roll. Abstain.
Yes.
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 PCR 6319 stands passed. The ninth item to be removed from the Finance Committee package is bid number 2020-021, now PCR 6419, committee report, finance.
Mr. President, I'm going to defer this to the Vice Chair because I will be abstaining on this one.
Okay. Councilman McAllister.
Thank you. I move favorable action on PCR 64-19.
And the recommendation is for favorable action, and Councilman McAllister moves favorable action of PCR 6419, seconded by Councilman Howe. Any discussion? Any discussion? The reason it was a separate number is Councilman Lattiser will be recusing himself on the vote. If not, a yes is to approve, and the clerk will call the roll. Yes.
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 Abstain?
Yes.
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 PCR 6419 stands passed. The 10th item to be removed from the Finance Committee package is bid number 2020-028A, which is now PCR 6519, committee report, finance.
Favorable with an amendment?
For action, Councilman Lattiser, move.
Move favorable action on PCR 6519 with an amendment.
Seconded by Councilman McAllister and Councilman Howe. Councilman, if you could, Lattiser, if you could move the amendment.
To amend the budget code to 34-354. It's changing it from its original indication of 30-340 to budget code 34-354 at the request of the sponsor.
Okay, seconded by Councilman McAllister, Councilman Howe. And is there any discussion on the budget code, why they moved the budget code, Councilman?
Yes, they needed to move it into a different code because of their structure on this particular item.
Very good. Is there any discussion on this amendment? If not, a yes is to approve, and the clerk will call the roll. Yes.
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 Amendment stands passed. Councilman Lattiser, if you could move it as amended.
Move favorable action on PCR 6519.
Seconded by Councilman McAllister. Councilman Howe, any discussion on PCR 6519 as amended? If not, a yes is to approve, and the clerk will call the roll. Yes.
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 The 11th item to be removed from the Finance Committee package is bid number 2019-275, which is now PCR 6619. Committee report, Finance.
Committee recommends favorable action on PCR 6619.
Seconded by Councilman McAllister. Councilman Howe. Any discussion, Councilman?
Councilwoman Travis will be abstaining on this item.
Abstaining. Very good. Any other questions or statements on this? If not, the clerk will call the roll on PCR 6619. A yes is to approve. Yes.
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 Abstain?
PCR 6619 stands passed. Next item on the agenda is PCO 419 sub A, an ordinance allowing right turns from Airport Road onto Evergreen Avenue.
PCO 19.
Unfinished business.
Oh, sorry. I got two calendars in front of me. PCO 1918 sub A, ordinance in regards to working without a building permit. It's for second passage. Committee report, ordinance.
Favorable action.
For action, Councilman Lattiser.
I move favorable action on PCO 19-18 sub A.
Seconded by Councilman McAllister. Any discussion for second passage on PCO 1918? I know we had quite a few comments at the last council meeting on this. This is for second passage. Any further discussion? If not, a yes is to approve for second passage, and the clerk will call the roll. Yes.
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 PCO 1918 sub A passes second passage. Next item on the agenda is also second passage. It's PCO 419 sub A, an ordinance allowing right turns from Airport Road onto Evergreen Avenue. Committee report, ordinance.
Favorable action.
For action, Councilman Howe.
Move for favorable action.
Seconded by Councilman McAllister. Councilman Lattiser. Any discussion on this ordinance for second passage allowing right turns from Airport Road onto Evergreen Avenue? If not, a yes is to approve for second passage, and the clerk will call the roll. Yes.
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 PCO 419 sub A stands past second passage. Also on for second passage is PCO 519, an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance of the City of Warwick, Joanne DeCenzo individually and in her capacity as administratrix of the estate of Joseph DeCenzo and Joseph DeCenzo III, petitioners. Committee report, land use.
Recommend favorable action.
For action, Councilwoman Travis.
I move favorable action on PCO-5-19.
Seconded by Councilman Lattiser. Any discussion on second passage for PCO 519? This is a public hearing last time. Any discussion, second passage? If not, a yes is to approve, and the clerk will call the roll. Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
PCO 519 stands past second passage. Also on for second passage is PCO 619, an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance of the City of Warwick Great Pond Group LLC petitioner. Committee report, land use.
Recommended favorable action.
For action, Councilman Sinapi.
Move for favorable action.
Seconded by Councilwoman Travis, Councilman McAllister, Councilman Lattisaw. Councilman Corley. Any discussion? This again was a hearing back last month. Any discussion on second passage on PCO 619? If not, a yes is to approve for second passage, and the clerk will call the roll. Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
PCO 619 stands passed. Next item on the agenda is PCO 1815, Neighborhood Improvement Program, an ordinance that will make landlords responsible for the cost to pick up debris left on the street by tenants. This is for first passage. It's not drafted. Committee report, ordinance.
Hold to May 20.
Held till May 20. Next item on the agenda is PCO 319, an ordinance relative to boat storage on residential property. This is not drafted. Committee report, ordinance.
Hold to June 17.
Hold till June 17th. Next item on the agenda is PCO 719, Pension Board. It's not drafted. Committee report, finance.
Hold to May 20th.
Held till May 20th. Next item on the agenda is PCI 9419, which is bid number 2017-147, State of Rhode Island Telecommunications Services, Installation and Parts. Committee report, finance.
Hold to May 20th.
Held till May 20th. Next item on the agenda is PCI 14817, which is bid number 2018-143, installation of sprinklers at the Cooper Building Drill Hall. Committee report, finance.
Hold to May 20th.
Held till May 20th. Next item on the agenda is PCI 1618, tree damage claims. It's not drafted. Committee report, public safety.
Hold until July 15th.
Held until July 15th. Next item on the agenda is PCI 919, a resolution requesting that the Rhode Island Airport Corporation consider additional factors in its 2019-14 CFR Part 150 noise study. It's not drafted. Committee report, intergovernmental.
It's going to be held until May 20th.
Held till May 20th. Next item on the agenda is a resolution, is PCI 2119, a resolution relative to Educational Outreach Committee. It's not drafted. Committee report, Health, Education, and Welfare.
Hold until May 6th.
Held till May 6th. Next item on the agenda is PCI 4219, a resolution to the General Assembly in support of amendments to the Sewer Authority Enabling Act to add 2 board members, financing terms, and septic systems. Committee report, intergovernmental.
At the request of the sponsor, it's going to be held until May 20th.
May 6th.
May 6th.
May 6th.
Held till May 6th. Next item on the agenda is PCI 5019, claim of Melanie Shackelford. Committee report, public safety.
Hold until May 6th.
Held till May 6th. Next item on the agenda is PCI 1519, the claim of David Rothermel. Committee report, public safety.
Recommend favorable action.
For action, Councilman Sinapi.
Move for favorable action.
Seconded by Councilwoman Travis, Councilman McAllister, Councilman McElroy. Any discussion for the recommendation to pay the claim of David Rothermel for the sum of $300? Any discussion? If not, a yes is to approve. The recommendation of the committee is to approve, and the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Marola?
Yes.
Mr. Corley?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mr. Lattisaw?
Yes.
Mr. McAllister? Mr. McElroy?
Yes.
Mr. Ricks?
Yes.
Mr. Sinapi?
Yes.
Mr. Travis?
Yes.
PCR 5219 stands passed. Next item on the agenda is PCR 5319, the claim of Paul Buckley, committee report, public safety.
Committee recommends favorable action.
For action, Councilman Sinapi.
Move for favorable action.
Moved, seconded by Councilman McElroy. Any discussion? I know we discussed this in committee for a while too. It's to approve the claim of Paul Buckley for the amount of $300. Any further discussion? If not, a yes is to approve, and the clerk will call the roll. Yes.
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 PCR 5319 stands passed. Next item on the agenda is PCR 5419, the claim of Francis Delbonis, committee report, public safety.
Hold until May 6th.
Hold till May 6th. Move to unanimous consent. We have one on the docket, PCO 819, qualification for appointment to the Land Trust. I know that this is sponsored by almost all the council members. Is there anyone that would object to having this heard for unanimous consent tonight? Any objections? If not, I'll refer to Councilman Howe to move it for favorable action.
Thank you, Mr. President. This just cleans up. We have a member who's already serving on the board at large.
Just move it first?
Absolutely, apologize. Move for favorable action.
Okay, seconded by Councilman Lattisaw, Councilman McAllister, Councilman Sinapi, Councilman Wicks, Councilman Howe. Very good. Go ahead, Councilman Howe.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. So again, just quickly, this is to clean it up some of the language. So instead of saying it allows residents within the city of Warwick without any hinges, as long as they are residents living in the city of Warwick, they are allowed to serve on this board. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Any further discussion? It's just the changing of some wording in the land trust. These are voluntary positions, so it's always nice to get people to volunteer for them. Okay, so a yes is to approve, and the clerk will call the roll. Yes.
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 PCO 819 stands approved first passage, and I was going to refer to the city council solicitor as far as second passage goes. We're going to...
Normally come up until the second meeting in May. So Councilman Howe, you should make a request that, under unanimous consent, that this come up at the first meeting in May for second passage.
So we are in unanimous consent now, so Councilman Howe, you're going to make that motion that it be heard in the first meeting in May?
Thank you. Mr. President, I make a motion that the PCO 8-19 be heard on the first meeting in May.
Okay. Is there any...
Second.
Yeah, it's second. But is there any objection to that being heard? That's really the question before us. If there's no objection, the clerk will docket that for second passage, PCO 819, the first meeting in May, which I believe is May 6th. Next item on the agenda is referral and advertising. That's PCO 919, an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance of the city of Warwick, 623 Post Road, James Donlin petitioner. And that's going to be out for referral and advertising. So we'll go back to the unanimous consent. Unanimous consent, Ward 1, is there anything for unanimous consent?
Pass.
Ward 2?
Pass.
Ward 3? Pass. Ward 4?
Pass.
Ward 5?
Pass.
Ward 6?
Pass.
Ward 7? Ward 8?
Pass.
Ward 9 passes. We'll move to the docket session. Councilwoman Travis.
If there be no further business of this honorable body, I move to a docket session.
Okay, Councilwoman Travis moves us to the docket session. I have a second. Second by Councilman Howe. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Council moves to the docket session. Ward 1, anything to docket? Pass. Ward 2?
One item. Amendment to ordinance relative to parking on Herff Jones Way.
That's going to go into ordinance. Anything else for Ward 2?
Let's see, I believe there may be any members who would like to co-sponsor this. They may,
Okay, I'll put
Councilman
them.
Lattiser, Councilman Corley, thank you.
And we're going to put that into public safety since it's an ordinance about public safety. Nothing else for Ward 2, Ward 3? Pass. Ward 4.
Mr. President, I'd like to introduce an ordinance in regards to a no parking between signs on Eaton Avenue to be placed on NG pole number 12, pointed towards Bluff Avenue.
That'll be put into public safety. Anything else for Ward 4?
No.
Ward 5?
Pass.
Ward 6?
Pass.
Ward 7? Ward 8?
Yes, two. First, a resolution to the State Traffic Commission in regards to the traffic signals and signage for the intersection of Garvin Drive and Centerville Road / Route 117.
Intergovernmental. Second one?
A resolution of the General Assembly in support of additional state funding for education.